Hi guys, welcome back to the second part of the human reproduction. 2.4 Menstrual Cycle. The reproductive cycle in the female primates, example monkeys, apes, and human beings, is called menstrual cycle. The first menstruation begins at puberty and is called menarche. In human females, menstruation is repeated at an average interval of about 28-29 days, and the cycle of the events starting from one menstruation till the next one is called the menstrual cycle. One ovum is released, ovulation, during the middle of each menstrual cycle. The major events of the menstrual cycle are shown in figure 2.9. The cycle starts with the menstrual phase when menstrual flow occurs and it lasts for 3 to 5 days. The menstrual flow results due to breakdown of endometrial lining of the uterus and its blood vessels, which forms liquid that comes out through vagina. Menstruation only occurs if the released ovum is not fertilized. Lack of menstruation may be indicative of pregnancy. However, it may also be caused due to some other underlying causes like stress, poor health, etc. The menstrual phase is followed by the follicular phase. During this phase, the primary follicles in the ovary grow to become a fully mature Graafian follicle, and simultaneously the endometrium of uterus regenerates through proliferation. These changes in the ovary and the uterus are induced by changes in the levels of pituitary and ovarian hormones. Figure 2.9. The secretion of endorphins LH and FSH increases gradually during the follicular phase and stimulates follicular development as well as secretion of estrogens by the growing follicles. Both LH and FSH attain a peak level in the middle of cycle, about 14th day. Rapid secretion of LH leading to its maximum level during the mid-cycle, called LH surge, induces rupture of Graafian follicle and thereby the release of ovum, that is called ovulation. The ovulatory phase is followed by the luteal phase, during which the remaining parts of the Graafian follicle transform as the corpus luteum. Figure 2.9. The corpus luteum secretes large amounts of progesterone, which is essential for maintenance of the endometrium. Such an endometrium is necessary for implantation of the fertilized ovum and other events of pregnancy. During pregnancy, all events of the menstrual cycle stop and there is no menstruation. In absence of fertilization, the corpus luteum degenerates. This causes disintegration of the endometrium leading to menstruation, marking a new cycle. In human beings, menstrual cycles ceases around 50 years of age, that is termed as menopause. Cyclic menstruation is an indicator of normal reproductive phase and extends between menarche and menopause. 2.5 Fertilization and implantation. During copulation, coitus, semen is released by the penis into the vagina. Insemination. The motile sperms swim rapidly, pass through the cervix, enter into the uterus, and finally reach the ampullary region of the fallopian tube. Figure 2.11b. The ovum released by the ovary is also transported to the ampullary region where fertilization takes place. Fertilization can only occur if the ovum and sperms are transported simultaneously to the ampullary region. This is the reason why not all copulation lead to fertilization and pregnancy. The process of fusion of a sperm with an ovum is called fertilization. During fertilization, a sperm comes in contact with the zona pellucida layer of the ovum, figure 2.10, and induces changes in the membrane that block the entry of additional sperms. Thus, it ensures that only one sperm can fertilize an ovum. The secretion of the acrosome helps the sperm enter into the cytoplasm of the ovum through the zona pellucida and the plasma membrane. This induces the completion of the meiotic division of the secondary oocyte. The second meiotic division is also unequal and results in the formation of a second polar body and a haploid ovum called oocyte. Soon the haploid nucleus of the sperms and that of the ovum fuse together to form a diploid zygote. How many chromosomes will be there in the zygote? One has to remember that the sex of the baby has been decided at this stage itself. Let us see how. As you know, the chromosome pattern in the human female is XX and that in the male is XY. Therefore, all the haploid gametes ova produced by the female have the sex chromosome X, whereas in the male gametes, that is sperms, the sex chromosomes could be either X or Y. Hence, 50% of sperms carry the X chromosome while the other 50% carry the Y. After fusion of the male and female gametes, the zygote would carry either XX or XY depending on whether the sperm carrying X or Y fertilized the ovum. The zygote carrying XX would develop into a female baby and XY would form a male. You will learn more about the chromosomal patterns in chapter 5. That is why scientifically it is correct to say that the sex of the baby is determined by the father and not by the mother. The meiotic division starts as the zygote moves through the isthmus out of the oviduct called cleavage towards the uterus, figure 2.11, and forms 2, 4, 8, 16 daughter cells called blastomeres. The embryo with 8 to 16 blastomeres is called a morula, figure 2.11e. The morula continues to divide and transforms into blastocysts, figure 2.11g. As it moves further into the uterus, the blastomeres in the blastocysts are arranged into an outer layer called trophoblast and an inner group of cells attached to trophoblast called the inner cell mass. The trophoblast layer then gets attached to the endometrium and the inner cell mass gets differentiated as the embryo. After attachment, the uterine cells divide rapidly and covers the blastocyst. As a result, the blastocyst becomes embedded in the endometrium of the uterus, figure 2.11, step H. This is called implantation and it leads to pregnancy. 2.6 Pregnancy and embryonic development. After implantation, finger-like projections appear on the trophoblast called chorionic villi, which are surrounded by the uterine tissue and maternal blood. The chorionic villi and uterine tissue become interdigitated with each other and jointly form a structural and functional unit between developing embryo called fetus and maternal body called placenta. Figure 2.12. The placenta facilitates the supply of oxygen and nutrients to the embryo and also removal of carbon dioxide and excretory waste materials produced by the embryo. The placenta is connected to the embryo through an umbilical cord which helps in the transport of substances to and from the embryo. Placenta also acts as an endocrine tissue and produces several hormones like human chorionic gonadotropin called HCG, human placental lactogen called HPL, estrogens, progestogens, etc. In the later phase of pregnancy, a hormone called relaxin is also secreted by the ovary. Let us remember that HCG, HPL, and relaxin are produced in women only during the pregnancy. In addition, during pregnancy, the levels of other hormones like estrogens, progestogens, cortisol, prolactin, thyroxine, etc. are increased several folds in the maternal blood. Increased production of these hormones is essential for supporting the fetal growth, metabolic changes in the mother, and maintenance of pregnancy. Immediately after implantation, the inner mass embryo differentiates into an outer layer called ectoderm and an inner layer called endoderm. A mesoderm soon appears between the ectoderm and endoderm. These three layers give rise to all tissues, organs in adults. It needs to be mentioned here that the inner cell mass contains certain cells called stem cells, which have the potential to give rise to all the tissues and organs. Where are the major features of embryonic development at various months of pregnancy? The human pregnancy lasts 9 months. Do you know for how many months pregnancy lasts in dogs, elephants, and cats? Find out. In human beings, after 1 month of pregnancy, the embryo's heart is formed. The first sign of growing fetus may be noticed by listening to the heart sound carefully through the stethoscope. By the end of 12 weeks, that is first trimester, most of the major organ systems are formed. For example, the limbs and external genital organs are well developed. The first movements of the fetus and appearance of hair on the head are usually observed during the 5th month. By the end of about 24 weeks, end of the second trimester, the body is covered with fine hair. Eyelids separate and eyelashes are formed. By the end of 9 months of pregnancy, the fetus is fully developed and is ready for delivery. 2.7 Parturition and Lactation. The average duration of human pregnancy is about 9 months, which is called the gestation period. Vigorous contraction of the uterus at the end of pregnancy causes expulsive delivery of the fetus. This process of delivery of the fetus, childbirth, is called parturition. Parturition is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. The signals for parturition originate from the fully developed fetus and the placenta, which induce mild uterine contractions and fetal ejection reflex. This triggers release of oxytocin from the maternal pituitary. Oxytocin acts on the uterine muscles and causes strong uterine contractions, which in turn stimulates further secretion of oxytocin. The stimulatory reflex between the uterine contraction and oxytocin secretion continues, resulting in stronger and stronger contractions. This led to expulsion of the baby out of the uterus through the birth canal, called parturition. Soon after the infant is delivered, the placenta is also expelled out of the uterus. What do you think the doctors inject to induce delivery? The mammary glands of the female undergo differentiation during pregnancy and starts producing milk towards the end of pregnancy by the process called lactation. This helps the mother in feeding the newborn. The milk produced during the initial few days of lactation is called colostrum, which contains several antibodies absolutely essential to develop resistance for the newborn babies. Breastfeeding during the initial period of infant growth is recommended by doctors for bringing up a healthy baby. Summary: humans are sexually reproducing and viviparous. The male reproductive system is composed of a pair of testes, the male sex accessory ducts, and the accessory glands and external genitalia. Each testis has about 250 compartments called testicular lobules, and each lobule contains 1 to 3 highly coiled seminiferous tubules. Each seminiferous tubule is lined inside by spermatogonia and Sertoli cells. The spermatogonia undergo meiotic divisions leading to sperm formation. While Sertoli cells provide nutrition to the dividing germ cells, the leading cells outside the seminiferous tubule synthesizes and secrete testicular hormones called androgens. The male external genitalia is called penis. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, a pair of oviducts, a uterus, a vagina, external genitalia, and a pair of mammary glands. The ovaries produce the female gamete ovum and some steroid hormones, ovarian hormones. Ovarian follicles in different stages of development are embedded in the stroma. The oviducts, uterus, and vagina are female accessory ducts. The uterus has three layers, namely perimetrium, myometrium, and endometrium. The female external genitalia includes mons pubis, labia majora, labia minora, hymen, and clitoris. The mammary glands are one of the female secondary sexual characteristics. Spermatogenesis results in the formation of sperms that are transported by the male sex accessory ducts. A normal human sperm is composed of a head, neck, a middle piece, and tail. The process of formation of mature female gamete is called oogenesis. The reproductive cycle of female primates is called menstrual cycle. Menstrual cycle starts only after attaining sexual maturation called puberty. During ovulation, only one ovum is released as per menstrual cycle. The cyclic changes in the ovary and the uterus during menstrual cycle are induced by changes in the levels of pituitary and ovarian hormones after coitus. Sperms are transported to the ampulla where the sperm fertilizes the ovum leading to formation of a diploid zygote. The presence of X or Y chromosome in the sperm determines the sex of the embryo. The zygote undergoes repeated meiotic division to form a blastocyst, which is implanted in the uterus, resulting in pregnancy. After 9 months of pregnancy, the fully developed fetus is ready for delivery. The process of childbirth is called parturition, which is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism involving cortisol, estrogen, and oxytocin. Mammary glands differentiate during pregnancy and secrete milk after childbirth. The newborn baby is fed milk by the mother. Lactation during the initial few months of growth. Here we completed our second chapter, NCERT reading. Stay tuned for other chapters. If it helps you, then like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.